What's going on, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Year One Wrestling Podcast, a show that dives deep into the early stages and formation of your favorite professional wrestlers, bringing out their struggles, their fears, and most importantly, their most interesting stories. I'm your host, the King of Chaos, Logan Black. Thank you so much for checking us out on whatever platform you enjoy your podcast on. We're all about showing love here, so if you dig what you hear, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, leave a review, tell a friend, share on social media, do whatever you can to help us get the word out on the show. Lots of fun and interesting things going on in my world. Man, I can't tell you how excited and motivated I am for the work that we're doing at the T2T Wrestling Academy in Brooklyn. These kids are coming along so well. We're actually filming something this weekend. Well, we're not. I'm not. The Poly King himself, MV Young, will be filming something over there to be put on IWTV in the near future. And guys, if you want to check that out when it does come out, or literally thousands upon thousands of independent wrestling shows on IWTV, you've got to subscribe. You've got to hop on in and see what it is that they're doing. Because, man, you could put that thing on and watch wrestling for a week straight, not watching the same shows, not watching the same promotions, non-stop. It's ridiculous how much stuff they have. And if you hop in with the promo code Logan Black, that's one word, all caps, you're going to get your first 5 days free. So go ahead and hop on that if you haven't already. Additionally, if you'd like to support this show with your wallet, you can go ahead and do that in one of two ways. The first being my Pro Wrestling Tees store. Currently this week, they are running a sale, 20% off your entire purchase. If you ever wanted to buy one of my exclusive shirts that I will never ever have at my merch table, go ahead, hop on the site, and get it for cheaper than you normally would. Who's going to turn down a deal? But speaking of deals, if you want any of the stuff that I've got at my merch table normally, you can go to my online merch table. That is kingofchaosnyc.bigcartel.com. I'm giving away free stuff with every order. Seriously, whatever you get, you're definitely going to get some stickers. You might get something I've got lying around if I know what you're into, or you leave me a message of like, hey, I like cheeseburgers. Who knows? Maybe I'll throw in a dope recipe for what my opinion is being the best cheeseburger you'll ever have. Only from my online merch table. But guys, I say it every single week. Every retweet, every mention, every like, every subscription, all very much appreciated by yours truly. On to this week's guest, Erica Leigh. I gotta tell you off the bat, I am insanely jealous of Erica. Because similar to Jeff Cannonball, whereas he is reviewing soda and getting to taste all this delicious soda, Erica is on Twitter reviewing candy. Man, your boy loves some candy. Erica's getting all this dope candy. All this stuff that I haven't seen in stores in years, so super jealous off the bat. But let's chat this up. You know, it was interesting to talk with Erica, who I've seen on the indie scene for a little while now. Absolutely killing it. You got this bridging German suplex variation that just blew my mind. But I was really interested to hear that her fandom only started a number of years ago. I thought that was really awesome. And then, of course, her being so bold in the way that she found herself getting into professional wrestling. The first time Erica and I met, we shared a merch table at a show in DC, and off the bat, I knew that she was somebody that would be perfect for the show. Tons of positivity, incredible in-ring performer, and hustle, which to me is one of the most important things in terms of finding success. You could be the greatest wrestler, you can be the greatest personality, you could have all these things, and if you're not busting your ass to get your name out there, who the hell knows who you are? Loads of respect for Erica. Really happy to bring you this interview. Let's get right to it. Erica Leigh on the Year One Wrestling Podcast. So yeah, thank you, Erica Leigh. Thank you so much for jumping in on the show. Stoked to have you on. You were on my short list from day one, and finally able to make this happen. So,
well, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's just hop right into it off the bat. What are your earliest memories of professional wrestling?
That's a trick question for me. I guess my earliest memory of professional wrestling is seeing a kid in middle school wearing a wrestling shirt and being like, yeah, that's the type of kid that likes professional wrestling, because I thought he was like real weird. I was like, yeah, that's about it, huh? Okay. And then I didn't actually watch professional wrestling and give it an honest chance until 2015. So just about 5 years ago, when my now partner, we were on like our third date maybe, and he was like, "Oh, it's Monday night. You get to watch Monday Night Raw with me and my roommates." And I was like, "Okay, so this is like super lame and not gonna last." And like, thanks for the memories, you weirdo. But I like sat down. I liked him, so I sat down and gave it a shot, and I was hooked just about instantly, and like have never looked back.
That's really dope to hear. I think it's great the fact that it wasn't. I mean, I still had that same reaction from middle school, but still, your maturity was like, I'm gonna see this one through, and it, boom, exploded, and now the love of wrestling has blossomed. I love to hear things like
Exactly.
that.
Yeah. Let your judgments go, and your the stereotypes you hold in your head, and enjoy it. Just enjoy it.
Did you have any kind of athletic background as a youth?
As a youth, yeah, I did a little bit of everything as a kid. I think like every year I tried like a new sport. But my mainstay was tennis. So I started playing tennis when I was like 7 years old, and I played all the way through college. I was like pretty good at it. Like not incredible, but I was pretty good. But yeah, I was always picking up something for like a season, like softball. I did figure skating for like a
Oh wow,
year.
that's one I have
Um,
not heard on the show yet.
yeah, I just wanted to try everything. So, like just whatever I could get my hands on, I would do for like a little bit, and then I would be like, okay, on to the next thing. So like soccer, swimming, um, whatever it was. I was like, all right, I'll try it. Okay, I tried it. Next. But yeah, I did cheerleading for like a couple years, and I broke so many fingers
Hmm.
because it was like largely unsupervised kids just like going at it on tumbling mats. And
So pro wrestling.
honestly, yeah, that's my earliest memory of pro wrestling. Yeah, me trying to do like back handsprings as an adult watches from the other side of the room, and it's like that's sort of
Yeah, they just described like 90% of wrestling schools in the Northeast.
it.
So you move on from all these athletic endeavors, which like legitimately seems that you're a jack of all trades. What does your first day of training look like?
Um, my first day of training was in a barn in the middle of nowhere, Central Virginia, and I had no idea what to expect. I knew one person that I was going with, and I had met her like a month beforehand, really randomly. It's Jordan Blade.
Oh,
she,
sweet.
yeah, she and I had a mutual friend on Facebook, and I like saw her comment on something and saw that her profile picture was her in a wrestling ring, and by this point I was like, you know, itching and like fiending to try it. Um and so I just like cold open messaged her and was like, "Hey, I know we don't know each other and I know this is like super weird, but would you want to get a drink sometime and talk about professional wrestling? Can I pick your brain?" And she, being the absolute sweetheart that she is, was like, "Yeah, for sure." And she talked to me for hours about it and was like, eventually the conversation just ended with, like, "How do I do this?" And she was like, "Oh, you just come with me to training on Sunday." I was like, "No, surely not. You have to see me run a mile or do a push up or something." And she was like, "Nope, you just come with me." And so I walked in with her and was completely out of my element, just like shaking in my boots, trying not to look like, a scared child. Um, but I was just trying my best to like follow along and like be nice and listen and not completely give away that I was like wildly uncomfortable the entire time. And that taking a bump was like the most unnatural and like painful like athletic experience of my life. But I mean, I didn't stop going. I kept coming back, so clearly wasn't too bad.
I think that's really awesome that you were able to get that connection in so early, even prior to hopping into the ring. Just, I mean, I was literally talking with Skylar from New England earlier today, and we had talked about how, like you had mentioned, like cold opening on somebody is just
Yeah.
like the most awkward thing to do, because that's
Yeah.
she had done to like a number of wrestlers, and she was just talking about how she jokes with Alicia Edwards now, because Alicia was the first person she cold opened, and Alicia kind of no sold her. So I think it's really
Oh
right. And like they could joke about it, but now it's
no.
hella
Right.
dope that you were able to get that from Jordan, who is an absolute sweetheart. Who was the trainer over there, or was it kind of similar to the cheerleading where it was just one adult going, you're kind of doing that right?
um yes. No, but I think not long after I got there, a guy by the name of Chris Sharp uh, started taking over training, and he's a referee for NXT UK now. I think he had just come back from OVW at that time, OVW or Florida. He had been between the two. Um, Absolute, just like endless knowledge about pro wrestling. So smart, and so generous with his time and knowledge. So he kind of whipped us all into shape, and taught us so much. Not even just like in ring stuff, but psychology and storytelling and a lot of like more advanced lessons that I probably missed, like 85% of what he was saying. But as much as I could, try to make it fit in my brain and make it stick. And I still use so much of what he taught me that I now can put the pieces together and be like, oh my God, that's what he was saying. So yeah, Chris Sharp, owe him a tremendous amount.
It's really important to sow those seeds, like the advanced seeds, early on. I mean, I try and put that together with my students all the time as well, where hey, none of this is going to make sense right now, but one day it's going to click.
Yeah.
It's great to hear that, like, I'm not just talking out my ass on that regard.
No, yeah, definitely. There were a few times where I think either it had whatever the lesson was had clicked for me, thankfully, or maybe like there was someone who was even newer than I was, and I like listened to something that he said or like watched an interaction, and I was like, oh, I am learning. I did understand that, like I do remember this from last time. So yeah, having those like advanced lessons or like higher level thinking, like nuggets hidden into like beginner stuff, very, very helpful.
What were your goals when you first started out?
Zero, none, had absolutely nothing.
I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense considering that you at that point were pretty much a new fan, right?
Yeah, I was just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what I want to do. I just know that this is like the most challenging and most fun thing I've ever done. Like simultaneously made me so anxious and so like scared, but also so happy, and I was having so much fun with it. That I was just like, I know I can't stop doing it. I don't know what I want to do, but I know I can't stop.
I think that's a really fair assessment. Talk to me about your first gimmick. Because now you're training, you're getting in there, you're doing your thing. Your athletic acumen is starting to show with everything you're doing in the ring. And now you get your first gimmick. What was it? What was it about? Lay it on us.
um, I think I had been training for about 6 months so like your buildup of like athletic acumen and training starting to pay off made me laugh. I've been training for like 6 months and was like barely hanging in there. Like starting to put together, like a leapfrog and an arm drag, and And I was kind of, a gimmick was bestowed upon me because there was a spot that needed to be filled in an upcoming show. So I was Emma Lou, the country gal, the cowgirl, like podunk rodeo kind of gimmick. It was really interesting and not at all true to me or my experience, my life experience, but it was actually like a fabulous way to start performing in front of people because, um, I wasn't wearing a mask, but in a lot of ways, I was putting on such a foreign persona for me that it was like wearing a mask. It was like having sort of this like comforting shield or blanket or whatever that if you didn't like me, I didn't care because this is not me. This is a character that is so far from me that I don't care if you like it or not. And it was also so easy to do like over the top because it was such a blatant stereotype that it was easier for me to like tap into like just yelling yeehaw, right? Like that's I mean it's like lazy character work, but at the same time it helped me as a very infantile performer emote and try to be loud and try to be bigger by using cheap stereotypes.
Oh, maybe it's completely lost on you because you became a fan like much later on. But I think my generation, it was pushed on us so hard. Like, oh, Austin, The Rock, Triple H, all these guys. All you got to do is just be yourself and turn the volume up to 11. But like, there really is truth in like not even coming close to yourself and just portraying something completely, utterly different. Like there
Yeah.
really is like it's an excellent skill, and you're completely right about that being playing up the stereotypes of any type of character. Like I'm pretty sure Mark Calloway is not actually an undead zombie, but he plays a pretty convincing one for the 20 some odd years. It really is something that I think is I don't want to say lost because it's certainly coming back, but it was lost for a while, and you had so many bland characters during that period because everybody was just trying to be the next Steve Austin or Rock or whatever. And now
Right.
everyone just like fuck it, let's throw stuff at a wall, let's see what fits, let's see what works and have fun with it. Makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think the level of self-awareness in professional wrestling is, I mean, on average, I mean, for like I'm trying to say this in a nice way, but I think it like professional wrestling requires a lot of self-awareness to be successful. You have to know what you are and you have to know what you aren't. And I don't think that everybody has the necessary level of self-awareness to make that call of like turning yourself up to 11 because you want to be the next Rock. Like, well, are you cool? Like,
Right.
are you a
Not
smooth talker?
not everybody is as cool as The Rock. Most people aren't. I would even suffice to say nobody is. He is unique. So
Right,
like
exactly.
you're
Do
gonna have
you
a star
look
in that
as
no matter what.
tough as Steve Austin? Do you look like a badass, or do you look like a kid playing dress up, So I think, yeah, it is really tough to, I mean, if you want to turn yourself up to 11, you might have to exaggerate features on yourself that you don't love to hit the nail on the head, right? Like if you're gonna actually exaggerate, what people see in you, you have to be self-aware enough to make those calls, and I don't think everybody is.
I could not agree with you more. Let's talk about your first match. I'm assuming that was as Emma Lou, correct?
Yeah, Emma Lou versus Jordan Blade.
Oh, fucking hey, that's awesome.
It was actually a really good match. Okay, not really good like objectively, but it was a really good first match. I'll say that. Um, I think the circumstances were not typical. I had about 40 coworkers come see it. So like right off the bat, I have people cheering for me, right? Like the hardest thing, get people invested and like liking you and cheering for you. I had 40 people screaming for me. So like very, very lucky in that sense. And then I also had Chris Sharp in the ring with us. He was the referee. And he was, like I said before, he's very experienced, very knowledgeable. He kept us moving very smoothly. And it was a much, much, much better first match than I could have ever hoped for or dreamed of. Earl Hebner was there.
Oh, wow.
Because it was in, Central Virginia where he's from. And I think after the match, what did he say to me? He said, he was telling us like, "Oh, good job, ladies. That was really good. That was, a great match." And then someone told him it was my first match, and he looked at me and said, "Well, fuck you." And I was like, "Oh shit, okay, what? Like, what's happening?" So that was, I mean, yeah, I couldn't ask for a better first match, really. There were a couple after that, that really sucked, but the first one was great.
No, it's a really awesome experience to be able to get in there, especially your first match against literally the person that helped you get into it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so
Exactly. It was really special. To be honest, it was a very special moment and it's a very special memory for me now.
were there any other local promotions that were helping you get your bearings about you when you were breaking in?
Not a ton. There's not like a very vibrant wrestling scene down here in Central Virginia. So there's not a ton of promotions to choose from. Everything's a bit of a drive. I would say probably the next stepping stone in Virginia would have been Nova Pro, and I was able to do a couple shows up there before that promotion closed. And I don't know how much to say about that promotion, but, but we can just say maybe it got I don't know, if you know, right?
Yeah, that's I think a perfect way to put it without getting into too many of the gory details.
Yeah, yeah. But that was, I mean, that promotion was, for me, I saw it as more professional than, I guess that's not a nice thing to say, but I went from, like a firehouse with
Right.
the same cast of characters to, and like no hard cam, to a promotion that was on IWTV and had like big names coming through. I think the first show that I was on, Mia Yim was on that card. I had a tag match against Harlow O'Hara and Tara Calloway. So I definitely got to share the locker room with some really cool people, and I got just a tiny taste of some in-ring time with some really cool people there too, before it closed up.
Yeah, it really seems like early on you had a lot of really awesome people to learn from. You're sitting there like throwing. I mean, I certainly I'm a name dropper as well, so I wouldn't. But I also wouldn't fault anyone. Like that's Tara's legitimately one of my absolute favorite people to
Yeah.
work with. Harlow O'Hara is phenomenal, and Mia Yim is fucking like S plus tier at this point. And was always at that level. You know what I mean? Like Mia was always incredible. So like you're really getting in there and getting to learn from and with all this incredible talent in an area that I mean I know you've mentioned it and I've also you aren't the only person who've said it that Central Virginia kind of is a dead zone at this point.
It is a little bit, yeah. So
Yeah,
it was quite a jump, right? Going from a barn in Central Virginia with, a couple guys to all of a sudden being booked on a show with, yeah, some like pretty some big time people and some names and some impressive wrestling. And I think I also, it must have been like my 10th match ever. It was at a promotion in Maryland. Um, was a tag match. Again, it was me and Jordan Blade versus Lainey Luck and Kylie Ray.
Oh, jeez.
Which now, like, I laugh so hard thinking about me in my like 10th ever match getting this like awesome opportunity, and they were so lovely to work with. And I actually think
They're both just amazing human beings.
they were so sweet. Yeah. I wonder if I was outwardly as nervous as I remember. Probably. But I think we had like a pretty good match that day. Like I went back and watched it, I think, sort of recently, and I was like, you know what? 10 matches in, honestly, go off. This was great. So yeah, but it kind of surreal. I knew then too, like obviously that was 2 years ago. So they've both made like, you know, huge strides in their own career since then. But I knew then that it was like a huge opportunity. It's like I knew their names, I knew like a little bit of their careers and like what they had been doing up until that point. So I was excited for it. I was like, I don't know how this happened. Like I don't know how, like who I tricked to put me in this match, but yeah, I'll try my hardest. So that was a cool random opportunity that I got pretty early on.
To say I'm jealous of you is really putting it lightly.
Yeah, I don't know how I
It's
pulled that one.
incredible.
I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, again, you guys did have Nova Pro down there, and Maryland will have like one or two. I know Maryland has like one or two spots that'll like, you know, bring in some decent talent. So it's not like I'm guessing at that point it wasn't as much of a black hole as you say it is now.
Yeah, well, I mean so Nova Pro closed, and then that promotion that I was working that I had that match at Fury Pro is actually since closed as well. So tough times in the DMV area. You know, it's not as burgeoning as it once was, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I bring this up literally like as often as I can because it's super unfortunate, but New York is very much similar where like a number of years ago and you could, you know, check the talent that came out of here with like Proud and Powerful and Private Party and like, you know, teams like that and Homicide helping to like foster those guys and like really there are no eyes on New York. There's like nothing coming out of here. And it sucks because it's New York City. Like, come on. There should be something great here, but alas, there's like nothing here. The athletic commission really has made it impossible for anybody decent to run over here. Places just decide to hop into Jersey, and then in Jersey there's 100 promotions running every weekend, so nobody draws.
Yep, I think that's a large part of the reason that Virginia is so hard up for like a variety of promotions and like, you know, the quality of promotions sometimes. Because nobody wants to run here because of the commission. Now when you could hop on over to, you know, West Virginia or North Carolina. But yeah, Maryland and Virginia and DC all got to deal with that commission.
Yeah, you know, I'll tell you what though, having dealt with both the DC commission and the New York commission, DC at least seems like they want to run shows. They just you know, got to be stringent. And I forgot, it was Maryland does have, they have a commission, right? Because I've gotten a license from Maryland before. Or was it Virginia? One of them, or both. I don't remember. It's my brain is mush. But like, it just literally seems like they're there to, you know, make sure nobody is killing anyone and that, you know, fire codes are up to snuff and that stuff. And New York, literally, like they told Homicide on a show that I was on that he couldn't use that name because his name was too violent.
What?
Yeah, the commissioner goes, oh, I don't like this. You can't be using this. And fucking, it's Homicide. Like Homicide's sitting there like, oh, okay. And then later on, it's like, yo, like, are we killing this guy? What are we doing? Like there was a whole bunch of us like have to like pry D off of this dude because there was that he came to the back. Same commissioner came to the back one show and was like, no pile drivers, too dangerous, no pile drivers. Like it was Memphis in '85. And then one he told he was having a conversation with somebody about, oh, you can't tape your fist, that's dangerous, like you're gonna hurt someone. And you just looking at this commissioner like, bro, you know this is fake, right?
Yeah, like do you understand what you're in charge of here?
Yo, it is wild. It's again, it's why nobody runs New York over here, because you literally cannot do anything. They're insane. But I digress. I'll put together an episode at some point of me just shitting on the New York Athletic Commission. But that's another time, another place. So you're out there, you're working all this incredible talent left and right in your area. Why the hell would you want to leave that area? But of course, the only way that you learn in wrestling is traveling. Talk to me about your first big road trip.
First big road trip. I know I had gone to West Virginia, which is about 5 hours. I had traveled to, I think probably the one that's sticking out in my mind. I went to Ohio, and I rode with Billy Dixon and Jared Evans. I mean, I love them both so much. I remember just thinking, like, that I had finally like hopped into a car that I really felt comfortable in. And not to knock anyone else that I had ridden with before, but it was just a marked difference between hopping into a car with like 3 or 4 straight dudes, and then hopping into a car with queer people. As a queer woman, wrestling is not always like the most comfortable environment. So hopping in that car and going to Ohio with those two was really fun and eye-opening and like more comforting than what I had maybe experienced before that. And not to like speak negatively of anyone, but I'm just trying to highlight the positivity of jumping in that car, and kind of feeling that sense of community that I hadn't yet, where I was like, oh my gosh, we can like talk about who we really like watching, and we can talk about, like anything without the conversation taking a turn. So yeah, my trip to Columbus, Ohio with Billy and Jared was long, very long, but it was more comfortable and comforting than some shorter trips had been.
I think the word community is about as perfect of an explanation as you could have expressed with that, because it seems about right, where wrestling very much like in terms of either carloads or scenes or schools, anywhere, like just you find a sense of community in any of these places, and it's hard for a lot of people in marginalized groups to be able to kind of find their way into that, especially in a culture as in a bubble as wrestling, and
Mm-hmm.
as with a long history of that bubble literally being straight white men
Yeah.
controlling everything. So to be able to find a community outside of that, even if it was just a small carload, shit, I mean, you can't ask for anything better.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to describe and put into words, but yeah, community is the word.
Want to say I understand. I certainly cannot pretend to understand what that could have been like, but a similar feeling for me was literally getting the first primetime show that I went to that I didn't even wrestle on. Just being able to see something like that, which is just so open and different, and so many different, shapes, sizes, colors, ethnicities, orientations. We're just like, and I know Uncanny does that over here, but I, wasn't booked for Uncanny at that point. But at the same time, just being able to kind of see something like that and kind of, again, feel part of, something that I wanted to be part of for shit. New York does not have
Yeah, I think
much
it's
of that, like I said.
like, to your credit, it's possible for people who aren't, um, like I'll just say it's possible for straight white men to look at queer spaces and notice how positive and comfortable and fun and supportive and good those spaces are. not just for queer people, but especially for queer people. It's possible for straight white men to look at that and say like, oh, wow, look at a group of people cultivating an environment that is good and wholesome and positive, and look how much more comfortable people are and themselves they are and expressive they are when they're given circumstances that allow them to shine freely. And when you're not just being oppressive bros making the same homophobic jokes or racist jokes or misogynistic jokes, quote unquote jokes, over and over again. I think it's possible for everyone to understand and see what a difference that makes when you put an emphasis on, having a diverse locker room and having a positive locker room.
Yeah, it's just such a different experience. It really is, and it's not just that one experience, but like looking at all these different spots, like even seeing shit. When I had ordered the Black Wrestlers Matter show, where like still obviously it was very centered around black wrestlers, but there were so many different styles and different gimmicks and different everything. And again, if you give these people who have been thumbed down for so many years the chance to show it off, I mean, shit, you're going to get something new and unique and fun. And that's really what wrestling needs. We've been sitting there with fucking headlocks and arm drags for shit, I got 2 fucking centuries at this point. Give me something different. Who the fuck cares about an arm drag anymore?
Yeah, I agree. Fuck arm drags.
I say this having taught arm drags for 3 hours on Monday and Wednesday, but I digress. Let's hop in a time machine for a second and go back to 2015. Day one, Erica or Emma Lou, however you want to look at it. What advice would you give yourself?
Just go for it all sooner. Any idea that I have, don't sit on it. Don't wait 2 years before you call somebody to try to get into a ring. Don't wait another 2 years before you make a move and bet on yourself and leave Virginia. Just do it. If you have an idea, do it as soon as you have the right way to do it, I guess. Don't instantly have an idea and go do it the shitty way, but have an idea, commit to it, and do it as soon as possible, because there's no point in waiting.
Sticking with those early stages, was there ever a point where you doubted yourself and kind of thought that maybe wrestling isn't for you?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Yeah, there were a couple times earlier on in training where someone was either being awful to me or accidentally insulting me. Someone who I'm good friends with asked me if I watched wrestling, and it just cut me to the core so hard. I was trying to do something, I was failing so hard, I could not figure it out, and he just looks at me, he was like, "Do you watch wrestling?" And I was like, "Oh my god, I will never get this. I will never get this." And I held it together in practice, and as soon as I got to my car, I just started crying. I was just like, I feel like such a piece of shit. I look like I don't even know what a fucking wrestling ring is. I look like I don't even watch this. That moment, I was just like, oh my god, will it ever click for me? Will I ever remember anything? Will I ever be able to replicate something I've seen? But you push through these moments, you push through the tough times, and you come out on the other side, and someday it does click. Someday you do get it. Someday you do remember how to do a thing. And thankfully at this point I have some of those days. I have a few of those good days strung together here.
Well, if anything, we could at least say your story is one of adversity, being able to overcome that level of negativity, as big or small as it might have been, to be able to be the performer that you are today. Which I think that's always great to pull that kind of positivity out.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I know I've expressed some negative experiences, which I did have. There were some people here in Virginia that I I would not choose to spend my time with now. But I also was really lucky to start training with the group that I did, because for the most part, the people that I was in the ring with every day made me feel safe and valued, and I never questioned the core group's intentions. Were there like people on the periphery that I was very wary of and knew they were trying to take advantage of me, or knew that they didn't have good intentions when they were around me? Yes. But the core group of people that I was with made me feel very safe, and I'm very thankful for that.
Switching gears to funny, ridiculous things, I got to propose to you this theory that I've got. The theory is that the weirdest, craziest, oddest, most unique human beings that you ever meet in professional wrestling all managed to come into your life within your first few years. So, Erica Leigh, can you tell us your early years, who is the most unique, oddest, weirdest, craziest person that you managed to meet?
This is quite difficult. I'm like going through this like Rolodex, and I'm like, oh God, can I talk about him? God, the craziest, weirdest person.
It could fall into all those categories or just one. But somebody that stands out to you is
okay, I don't, I almost don't want to give him this, but Ace Montana.
I know that name, and also he was named by somebody else in that area that I've interviewed.
That makes sense. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if I really want to give him the free publicity, but yeah, Ace Montana was an early figure in my training, and truly a character I could never forget, even if I tried.
And I was like, this is my kind of person, because it's just insanity, and I need to absorb this insanity because I love a good freak show.
Yeah, that's pro wrestling.
Erica, before we get out of here, we're still a part of that time machine. I'm gonna need to ask a huge favor from you, and that we hop back in, go back to 6 months into your career, and we channel Emma Lou. Can you give us a short promo as Emma Lou?
That's cruel. Yeah, I can do that. I can hold on, let me get into character. Hey y'all, it's Emma Lou here, and I know all my Emma lunatics are wondering, what is this podcast? Well, it's a year one podcast, and you better tune in and listen up, folks, because we got a rip-roaring show for you.
That was brilliant. How is that complicated anyway? That's a brilliant promo. Short, simple, to the point. Excellent stuff.
Oh, God.
Listen, the only person who gave me a gimmick on the show that I could not go back on was Billy Dixon, because his first gimmick was so rife with racism. Like, it's like, I can't do this.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Everyone else I've pushed on. I'm like, Billy, I can. He's like, oh, don't worry about that. I don't mind not cutting this promo.
That makes total sense. Yes.
Erica, where can we find you on social media, and anything else that you'd like to plug?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Erica Wrestles. I'm on Facebook at Erica Leigh, Leigh. And I've got two things to plug. They are debuting on IWTV on the same day. On October 29th, you can watch me in Paris is Bumping, and you can see me on Camp Leapfrog.
Awesome stuff. I know for a fact I've got to check out that Paris is Bumping show, because that looked absolutely insane from all accounts of it. Erica, again, thank you so much for coming on and giving us your time. I am a massive fan of you as a performer. Like I said, you were on the short list from the get-go because I genuinely enjoy your work. It has been great getting to know you and great getting to chat you up about your first year in wrestling. So again, thank you so very much.
Oh, thank you for having me. I had a blast talking with you, and even though you made me bust out the Southern accent for an Emma Lou promo, I forgive you. It's okay.
Yes, please don't hold that against me. Among many other things, this conversation just reminds me I've got to get Jordan Blade on here for an interview. And man, could you even imagine having your first match in front of Earl Hebner? I'm surprised the guy didn't slide in and try and recreate the Montreal Screwjob in the middle of Virginia. Thanks again to Erica Leigh for joining us on the show. Well, before we get out of here, you should go ahead and give us a follow on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Gear1Pod. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel on your preferred podcasting app and leave a review. Shout out to Heroes for the music. You can check them out on Spotify. Shout out to Joanna Robinson for all the artwork and design. Jewett Chan on all social media. Shout out to the Funkenstein Wrestling Superstore for sponsoring the show, located at the Englishtown Flea Market in Englishtown, New Jersey, and on eBay. Make sure to check out their brand new website and give their Facebook page a like for all your wrestling merch needs. That'll be it for this episode of the Year One Wrestling Podcast. I'm Logan Black telling you, be awesome to each other. Peace and love.